The roadmap addresses a very simple question. How are we going to find a remedy for climate change? And at the center of that question lies China and the United States. And at the center of those two countries' bilateral relationship lies coal. If you can't clean up coal, you cannot solve the climate problem.
These are complicated issues which involve multiple stakeholders and multiple interests. Ultimately, decisions have to be made about where to focus attention, and we think the roadmap focuses on the most important components of the problem. Carbon capture and storage is a technology by which you concentrate the emissions from point sources like coal-fired power plants, and you store them over long periods of time in geological formations. It's important because this is one of the ways that we have not only to generate carbon-free energy, but more importantly to reduce existing emissions within the infrastructure. The roadmap is focusing on three things. The first is putting together large demonstrations quickly. And the quickest place where we can do that is at places where you have pure streams of CO2 today, in the United States and in China. The second is on going after research, development, and demonstration in the power sector, finding the right projects to pursue, chiefly looking at retrofit technology. How do you go after the existing plants through post-combustion capture mostly? And the third is, how do you finance this? How do you put together the money and the financial instruments and institutions to allow this to become commercialized widely as opposed to just being a series of short demonstrations?
I think China has great ambivalence given the costs of cleaning up coal to engaging in a project on carbon capture and sequestration. But they've come a long, long way in the last 2 years on a whole host of issues. I think the whole world has. We have. Our country has. So I'm optimistic that if we can catalyze this situation in the proper way by suggesting pathways forward, I think we'll find China much more willing to cooperate.
Because we have to collaborate as nations, one of the most important tangible benefits is the collaboration itself. That's likely to accelerate the deployment of this technology within each country and between these countries. That acceleration will reduce the cost of carbon capture and sequestration. It'll allow both countries to keep cheap electricity and cheap energy production, and it'll give them technologies they can export to other countries.
Very recently, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress passed a resolution on climate change, and it specifically mentioned the need to invest in new low-carbon technologies, including carbon capture and storage. What China sees in this technology is the opportunity to create technologies of the future, technologies that the rest of the world wants, and technologies that it can export and help strategically grow its industry and its economy. If Congress takes a long-term vision in mind and see how the benefits can trickle down to the rest of the economy, then it would probably arrive at the conclusion that a collaboration with China makes a lot of sense.
The U.S. has an almost existential question before it. Does it want to lead? And does it want to lead on what is undoubtedly the most important issue of this century, namely climate change? And yes, there are going to be costs. And yes, Congress is going to buck and weave and try to dodge this one. But one can only be hopeful that they will rise to the occasion. And if they don't, I think it will be a sorry day. If you would like a copy of the full report, please go to asiasociety.org/climate.